Okay. So welcome everyone. I'll give it a minute or two before I get into it, but while we wait, I'll just give a brief introduction. So my name is Olamide Abegunde and I'm a software engineer at Cisco. Now, Cisco is a massive company, but the part of Cisco I worked in developed a product called WebEx, which is what we're actually using for today's session. So before I start, I should let you know if you have any questions at all, please use the chat box. If you happen to miss anything I say, just drop a message. And if I happen to miss your message, feel free to unmute and ask me a question. All right, we have a lot to cover in today's session, so I'll get into it. So to give you an idea of what we'll be covering today, for the first 15 minutes, I'll be talking you through an introduction to REST APIs and also telling you about some characteristics of RESTful APIs. Then you'll be getting a chance to interact with APIs using Python. So I hope we've joined with our laptops ready to give the hands-on labs a try. Not to worry if you've joined with the phone, I will be going through the solution to the lab so you'll still get to see how it's done. And if time permits, there'll be a second lab where we'll be using Postman to generate some code to make API requests. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, what is an API? What is a REST API? But before we venture into this thrilling world of REST APIs, I think it's best we take a moment to explore the basics. So what even is an API? Well, an API is an application programming interface. Now, as the name suggests, it's an interface for an application that can be accessed via code. Now, to talk you through a visual explanation of what an API is, let's imagine that we have an already existing app, and let's say that this app gives us weather forecasts. Now, let's say you want to make your own custom app, and you want your custom app to be a news app. But in your custom app, you also want to have, say, a widget where the user can see the weather, for instance. Now, the problem is that you don't know how to talk to this app. You don't know what language it was written in. You don't know what functions to call to get the weather data. So this is where an API comes in useful. So it just acts as an interface for apps to talk to each other. And now you can easily get weather data across to your app without having to reinvent the wheel and figure out how to get weather data. Good. So now that we understand what an API is, what exactly is a REST API? Now, REST itself stands for Representational State Transfer. And all that means is that the state of the data on the server would be represented in a format like JSON, HTML, or XML, and transferred to whoever asks for it. Now, REST is not a documentation. It is just a loose set of rules for building web APIs. And when we have APIs that follow these REST rules, we call them RESTful APIs. And I'll be talking you through some of the characteristics of RESTful APIs in the next few slides. One of the characteristics of RESTful APIs is that the resources are organized into a set of URIs, which are unique resource identifiers, and they look something like this. We've probably all seen things like this, but I'll be explaining each part of what we're looking at. So this first part in black is the protocol, and it typically indicates whether the server is an open one, which would be HTTP, or if it's a secured one, which would be HTTPS, which it is in this case. The next part is known as the domain name of the server. So in this case, we know that we're using the HTTPS protocol to go to the maps.googleapis.com server. So now that we know the server we're going to, what location on the server are we going to? That's where the next part comes in. Think of it as a file path. It's known as the resource path and sometimes called the API endpoint. So here we know that when we get on our Google API server, we're going to Maps API to the geocode folder, and we want the JSON data. Now, the next part of this URI is usually optional, and it's known as the query parameter. And it just helps us filter the results. So here we know that we want the geocode JSON data, and we want the one for San Jose. So putting everything together, you can tell what this API request asks for. It just asks for the geocode San Jose, and it wants the answer to be in a JSON format. Now, to give you kind of a visual example of how API endpoints come in useful. So we can see the first URI here goes to version 3 products, and the server knows that it should check the products database. And when we ask for version 3 of users, it knows that it should go to the user database. So that's how we can use URIs to distinguish between where we want to go or what kind of data we want from a server. Now, another characteristic of RESTful APIs is that they are centered around the HTTP request and response model. Now, the model typically defines the structure and format of messages exchanged between the client and the server. And it looks something like this. So you would have a client, which would be you on your phone or your laptop, and you send a request to a server that is formatted in this way, and you get a response that is formatted in this way. Now, requests could vary, but there's a standard set of actions that we typically want to do on servers. And this could be to create data on the server, to read data from the server, to update data on the server, or to delete data on the server. Now, for each of these actions, there is a corresponding HTTP verb that we use when making requests. So when we want to create, we use the post. To read, we use the get. To update, we use the put. And to delete, we use the delete. Now, when we make a request, if all goes well, we get whatever data we ask for. But if for some reason something goes wrong and we don't get what we need, how do we know what went wrong? Now, this is where the response side of the model comes in. And there is something in HTTP called the HTTP response codes, and that lets us know how our request went. So generally, 200 level codes indicate a success with our request. 400 level codes mean that something went wrong with our request. And the 500 level code means that there was something wrong at the server level. So it wouldn't be our fault, it would be the fault of the owners of the server. So now, having all this information and looking at this picture, you can tell that the client is trying to create a new product, maybe, on using the HTTP protocol 1.1 on the server. And the server replies saying, well, yes, your request was successful, product was created, 200, okay. Now, having known these codes for 200 meaning success, 400 level meaning something went wrong with our request, and 500 meaning something was wrong with the server, I think we've all experienced or we've seen this page at some point in our lives where we're trying to access something on the internet and we get this sad face document page. And now that you know what the HTTP 400 level codes mean, you know that means that when you get this page, it means that there was something wrong with your request. And when you Google it, you find out that the 401 error is an unauthorized error, typically meaning that you're not authorized to access the page that you're trying to access. Okay, so now, to tie everything that I've said so far together, I'm going to be doing a little demo, and we'll be trying out an API called the Random Useless Facts API. Now, we will be using this, we'll be making this API request, and hopefully we can all recognize that this is the URI. Now, I want you to look at this URI and have a think in 1 minute or two, what are we actually asking the server for? So remember, this is the protocol, and this bit is the domain name of the server, and this is the resource path. So what do you think we are asking for? Please feel free to use the chat box. I want to know what you think. Any ideas so far? A random fact, yes. Yes. Any more suggestions? Okay. So that is correct. We are indeed asking for a random fact. Yes, random information. Thank you. And we will be running this command in the terminal. So let me get my terminal up to see what happens. Good. So I hope we can all see the terminal and the font is okay for us.
Sorry, Olamide, I don't think your terminal's up just yet.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we can see it now. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So if I just copy this command or this API call, you'll see that we're using curl, and curl is basically just a tool that we use to make HTTP requests in the command line interface. So I'm just going to add something little to this to make the response pretty. And all I'm doing is telling the CLI to format the answer in a nice JSON format for us to read. Okay, right. So this is what we get back. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about these first two lines. It's just giving us some stats on how our request went. But this is the main thing that we've gotten back. And if you're familiar with JSON objects, you know that this is a JSON object. And if you're not, I want you to think about it as a dictionary in Python where you have a key and a value. So as you suggested, we requested for a random fact, and that is indeed what we got back. So you see, we got the ID of the fact and we got the text. So the random fact is the top 3 health-related searches on the internet are in this order: depression, allergies, and cancer. And as you've probably suspected, each time we run this command, we get a different random fact. So you can start to imagine how you can use APIs. Let's say you wanted to build an app that displayed a random fact every time the user refreshed the page. All you do is make this API or put this API call in your app code. And when you get your response back, you'd know how to extract the fact from the answer. Great. So we are now ready to go into the first lab. I'll be pasting the link to this repo in the chat box, and we will be doing tasks 1 and 2. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see the chat box. Oh, Shanni, I can't access the chat box. Would you mind helping me paste this
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
chat
Let me
box for
send
everyone?
it. Yes.
I've got it here.
So hopefully everyone can see that in their chat window now. So if you click on that link, you will see the lab guide for the exercises that Olamide's put together, and we'll be working through this for the rest of the session.
Okay. Thank you, Shanni. So I'll just be talking us through what is expected of us in the labs. Please do try to access it. If you don't have access, let me know and I will sort you out. Great. So when you get to the link, you will see this README file, and that's what we'll be working on. So I've put, for anyone that joined late, I've put in summary of what we've spoken about, what is REST API, and then there's some prerequisites. So you will need to sign up to WebEx Teams if you do not have a WebEx account. Yeah, so it's an easy process, 3 steps, and you'll have everything set. Then you also need to be able to access your terminal. So in Mac, if you just search for terminal, you'll be able to get that. In Windows, you just need to open the command prompt. And in your terminal, you will need to check that you have curl installed. And if you don't, I've put some steps here for you to get that installed. You will also need Python 3. And if you don't, please install it. So we'll be doing tasks 1 and 2. And all task 1 is we're interacting with an API called the Deck of Cards API. So in your terminal, you'll be using this API to create a new deck of cards. And then you will shuffle your deck of cards, and then finally you will draw some cards. I've also put a little section at the bottom here if you're feeling curious to answer an extra question, explore the API, which is documented on at this link. Then in task 2, you'll be working with the Cisco WebEx API, and you'll be using that to send a message on your WebEx account. So you will need to send a message to somebody who also has a Cisco WebEx email address. So I've put my email address. So I'm looking forward to getting messages from all of you saying hi from your name. Great. So we will be going over these in the next 15 minutes. So please give it a go. And if you have any questions, please drop in the chat box. I'll also be going through it at the end of 15 minutes. So if you're stuck, you can see how I go through everything.
If anyone's got any questions while they're working through this, Olamide and I will be on the chat window, so please share any issues or challenges in that space on the chat window that you'll see on this meeting panel, and we'll do our best to help you through it.
Thank you, Shani. So let me get my terminal up. Okay, so the first bit of the lab tells you to create a new deck of cards. Oh, sorry. Let me continue the recording. Okay, that's gone. All right, so the first bit of the lab tells you to create a new deck of cards using this API. So all I do is copy that and put it in my terminal, and I get this JSON object back, which gives me a new deck, tells me the request was a success. And if I want it in a pretty format like before, I just use piping and specify what I want, which gives me this. Now, the next part talks about seeing the HTTP response code. If you remember, we talked about that. And what we would want is a 200 code. And that's what we see at the top to say the request was a success. So that concludes task 1.1. 1.2 is all about shuffling your deck of cards. So you should have received your deck ID, which is this one. We'll go with this one. So all I do is paste that in there, copy the deck ID that I received for my new deck, and insert it in here. So it shuffles this particular deck. So good. Now, shuffled is equal to true, meaning that my deck of cards has been shuffled. 1.3, the last part of this task, simply tells you to draw 3 cards. So I'll just copy that command, paste that in there, replace the deck ID with my deck ID. And then the response I get back shows me the cards that have been drawn. So you can see here, well, King of Clubs, KC, yes, that's one card that was drawn. Queen of Spades, and 4 diamonds. And if you're really curious, you notice that there's some links here that were also sent back. And if you actually paste that in your browser, you would be able to see the actual cards that were drawn. Oh, 1 minute. Copy the quotes. Okay, yeah. So that shows me the Queen of Spades that was drawn. And you can see every other card that was drawn. Good. So now task 1.4 tells you to figure out how to return cards to the deck. And it tells you to have a look at the API at this link. So if you have a look through the API, you can see that it's been documented well. And this is how basically an API is. You would have a page that tells you what URI you need to do what. So if we scroll to the bottom of the page, we will see that there is a part that talks about returning cards to the deck. And basically, from what I see, if I want to return all the cards to the deck, all I have to do is run this. And if I want to return specific cards to the deck, then you can actually specify that. So give this a go later on if you're unable to, and you should be able to return all the cards to the deck. So that concludes task one. So task 2 is about using the Cisco WebEx API. And all you have to do is go to developerwebex.com, navigate to documentation, web APIs. So if I go to developer web, documentation, and then go to APIs, which should be in the left-hand pane here. Then I can see my token. I copy that, press OK. And all I do is export it to my terminal now. So export. And that should be saved in my terminal. So the next part tells you to use the WebEx API. So if I copy this and replace the email with my Cisco email and replace my name here, then I should be sending a message to my Cisco email. So I'm going to say, hi from Olamide. And send to my Cisco email. Okay, so I did get that now. Let me see if I can share that with you. So this is my WebEx. I have my WebEx on my laptop and I've just got this message now at 5:42 p.m. So that is essentially what it is that you have to do with that task. So we've seen two different APIs here. And we see that one of them, the first one, deck of cards, did not require authentication, and we see how one that requires authentication is different, where you have to get a token. So you can see how you can use APIs in a variety of ways. The last task here, 2.4, requires you to look through the WebEx API, just like we did the deck of cards API, and there you'll be able to see that there is a parameter for sending messages in bold, and there's also APIs for creating WebEx spaces and getting a list of spaces you're in. Great. So now we're moving on to the second part of this session, which is about Postman. So what is Postman? In a nutshell, Postman is a tool used to interact with REST APIs, and it lets us do this using a graphical interface. It's popularly used for API testing, and it offers a quick code generation tool that can output code in several languages or versions. All that means is, say you're building your own custom app and you want to embed API calls into it. Instead of going through the hassle of figuring out how you do that in whatever language you're writing in, Postman helps you using its graphical interface. All you have to do is put in the values where you want them, and it generates the code that you need to do so. And you'll be able to do this in part 2 of the labs. So that will be task 3 here. I can see that we are running out of time. So I will give 10 minutes for task 3. It's straightforward and everything you need is already there in the labs. So please give this a try. And I will if time permits, I'll go through the solution at the end. Thank you for sharing the timer. Should look like if you've managed to set them up properly. So after importing everything into Postman, you would have something that looks like this, and all you have to do is locate the shuffle single deck and then change the value here to 6 or however many cards you want to shuffle. After doing that, you click on this icon and you'll be able to select whatever language you want the code to be in. So if I want some C#, it will generate it for me. But in this case, we want Python, and particularly we want to use the request library in Python. So that's what I have here. So I'm just going to copy that. And as per the lab instructions, I'm going to paste that in my deckofcards.py file. Great. And then the next part of the lab tells you to include another 3 lines to that, which will basically print out the deck ID for us. Before I continue, I just want to take a minute to analyze the code here. So we're saying that the URL we want to use is this, and we don't have any payload, we don't have any headers. The response we want to store the response in this variable called response, and we are making a GET request to this URL. Now, if you remember, the GET request is used to read information, if you remember from that slide of HTTP verbs and actions. Now, when we get the response, we want to print the response, and we also want to print the deck ID from the response. So let me see if clear works here. Good. So clear sheet. And now all we have to do is run the deck of cards file. Cards. Okay. So we'll have to change directory into the deck of cards directory. So let me see. So all I'm doing here is going into the folder where deck of cards is stored. So it's stored in the Python folder. And then now I should be able to run this command. Yes. So we got back exactly what we wanted. We wanted it to print the response, which is this JSON object. And we also wanted it to print our deck ID, which you can see it has extracted from the response. So that's basically all it is. The last bit of the lab is a little extra. If you figure out the call that helps you get an image back when you send a request. So that's it. Just to give a recap of what we looked at today. We started with an introduction to REST APIs. Then we went on the characteristics of RESTful APIs. We interacted with APIs using Python. You also use Postman to generate code for API calls. And that's everything. Thank you very much for joining the session. I hope you learned something new. And feel free to reach out to me even after the session if you have any questions. So yeah, have a good evening and good luck with your hacks.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.